Hello, everybody, and welcome to another week of Words, Words, Words. I'm Daniel.
I'm Heidi.
I'm Colin.
And today we have a fun episode for you. It is a book from one of our favorite authors, and that would be Heidi's. So, Heidi, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, well, so first, I wanted to open it up with a little icebreaker. We know Stephen King is my favorite author. I want to know your favorite author, and also favorite book if you have one or a couple.
Can I cheat and do like a playwright and favorite author? I think you all know who my favorite playwright is, but...
Okay.
Gee, I wonder who.
Yeah, wait a minute. Yeah, okay. Well, but do you have a favorite for people listening, if you don't know Dan, it's Shakespeare. Our podcast is called Words, 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 please.
I do have some favorite modern ones, but yes, Shakespeare is probably my favorite.
Do you have like a favorite work of his? Favorite specific?
Well, I have played Claudius in Hamlet 3, 4, losing track of it, times. I think Hamlet is just honestly one of the best pieces of just somebody capturing the workings of the human brain that we have in literature. It drags on at times, it does, and if you do the entire 4-hour thing, Kenneth Branagh, it is super fucking long. But the way that the human brain works in Hamlet shows that Shakespeare had a grasp of it that very few people, I think, have as writers. But if we're talking literature, gosh, I think I'm going to have to go Brandon Sanderson, which might be a cop-out answer. He's probably on top of a lot of people's list. But considering that I have read like everything but like the Cytoverse and his other YA series, I've read him the most for sure. I'll lie and get one more in there. Not a lie, just different genre. Stephen Graham Jones is like my favorite horror writer out there.
Nice. Great answer.
That's such a tough question. I have to do by like a couple, like by genre. Like my favorite all-time writer is probably like James Baldwin. I have read every single James Baldwin book. That's the author that got me into reading critically. Obviously, I love Sanderson as well. R.F. Kuang is sneaking into being my favorite writer. I've read 4 of her books now, and every single book I've read of hers is literally 5 stars. James Islington is getting in there now that I've about to read my 5th one by him. Pierce Brown is up there. I love Red Rising. I was talking to Heidi about this. I am as excited for The Strength of the Few as I was for Wind and Truth. Like that level of excitement.
For
this book. The world he has built with the Hierarchy trilogy is unreal. Joe Abercrombie, now that I've read 4 of his, is up there.
Absolutely.
The lowest rated book I gave his was a 9 out of 10. I gave the entire First Law trilogy perfect rating. And then Devils, I gave 9 out of 10. So there's a collection. My favorite all-time book, though, is Babel. Either Babel or Giovanni's Room.
Giovanni's Room?
By the authors
I'm surprised you didn't say Robert Jordan in there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
See, there's too many. It's too hard. It's too hard.
Yeah.
The thing with Jordan, I've only read Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan, which I mean is my favorite piece of literature or a piece of fiction, period. But a little bit. I feel like I can't put him above others just when I've read multiple works by others, but still, Jordan the GOAT, taken from us too soon.
I've got a few authors who are like, if I've read more of yours, you might be up there. Like P. J. Lee Clark, I think he wrote Ring Shout, and a few others that I have on my list of like 2 reads, but just on the strength of Ring Shout alone, I mean, he may be... He's climbing up there if the other things can match what that was.
Super skilled, super talented.
Yeah. I mean, mine's obviously Stephen King. I've read all of his stuff.
Okay, besides Stephen King, who's your...
Stephen King, yeah. I have 6 Stephen King tattoos, but obviously J.R.R. Tolkien, I mean, I know that's such a not interesting answer, I guess, but as far as like other horror authors, Nick Cutter, I've been really getting into a lot of his books. Anya Alborn wrote, I talk about Brother all the time. It's like one of the most horrific books I've ever read. Complimentary. Gosh, I forgot all the books.
I will say I was reading a little bit
Just-
about The Queen from Nick Cutter today, and that's one that's immediately going on the
Yeah, I mean, my list
read
of
list.
TBR is just like all of his books. Oh, Blake Crouch has kind of been up there with thrillers recently for me too. I have a couple of his on the list for the podcast.
One of my other
Who
favorite
else?
authors is somebody that we're actually covering next week. I've only read one series of hers, but I absolutely want to read Spinning Silver, and that's Naomi Novik.
Yeah, I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to
her stock's high
that
right now for
discussion.
me.
Yeah, for sure. Cool.
But for today, go ahead, Heidi. Day goes away.
Yeah, so we are talking about The Running Man. And I've been saying The Running Man by
I do
Stephen
like
King.
You like Colin's cover more than I like your cover, Heidi.
Yeah, so okay, yeah.
Heidi's is
so
awesome.
first of all, I have 2 copies of this book actually. So I'll show the other one in a second too. The one they're talking about is this. He's not shirtless for the record. That's the you can't really see, but it's like the uniform he wears in the movie. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger from the 1987 movie. It's
The
watch
perfect
the new one.
Ben.
We have it.
It's a cover of all time.
Quality, right? And it's a movie that exists. Stephen King literally says that Ben is not the Arnold Schwarzenegger type. So anyway, don't watch that movie. It's bad. Just, hey, Stephen King will say it himself. There are a lot of adaptations of his work that are just, well, bad. And that is one of them. The other copy I have is one of my prized possessions, which is the Bachman books. It's a little beat up. These aren't in print anymore, these books, because of a story that is Stephen King chose to stop printing, which is Rage. It's about a school shooting. And so, yeah, we've been talking about Stephen King, but The Running Man is one of the books that he wrote as Richard Dickey Bachman, his pen name in the early 80s. So before we actually get to talking about the book, I want to talk about a little bit of pseudonyms, pen names, whatever you want to call it, why authors use them, why Stephen King used them. He has a lot of reasons. A lot of authors have many different reasons for why using them. I don't know if you guys have read a whole lot of books written by people with pseudonyms or pen names before.
Well, one that I've read some Mira Grant, and I've also read some Shannon McGuire, who are the same person. And at least her reasoning for it is Mira Grant lets her write horror, Shannon McGuire lets her write fantasy. I would imagine that's probably the case here, just given that this book, at least, which I think is the first Bachman book that I've read, is quite different from the horror that I'm used to from It and the other Stephen King that I've read.
Yeah, I have zero experience with, at least that I know of, with authors writing under pseudonyms other than like the Federalist Papers or something that I had to read in school. But as far as actual like enjoyment literature, at least as far as I know, this is the first one I've read that I knew was under a pseudonym. I think it's I mean, can we get into like why? Like, 'cause I think it's cool, and I know legally there's some loopholes you can get around with some pseudonyms, why a lot of people in the entertainment industry will do it with music as well under different names and stuff, because a lot of times, depending on your specific deal, they don't necessarily own your craft. They kind of own the name attached to your craft. So if you attach a different
artist
pseudonym
formerly known as Prince.
right, and you can attach some you can kind of, because a lot of times these, a lot of like studios, or I imagine publishers are the same way, are afraid of oversaturation. So they'll say, Mr. King, especially someone who's as prolific as Stephen King notoriously is, they could say like, you're limited to 2 releases this year. But he's going to say, well, F you guys, I want to do a 3rd one. So he can do under his pen name. Legally, that I know that is why a lot of people may do it. Creatively, I think, I've only read one Stephen King book, and this is very, very different than that Stephen King book I read.
Yeah.
And I would say this one is a pretty dark book.
Yep.
If you could probably go a little darker, a little more twisted, push the needle a little bit more. If you're
I wouldn't say
writing
that's
under Richard
unique
Bachman.
for Bachman compared to King, though. It's got some very
True.
messed up
I've never
bits.
read it. I've heard that some of the scenes that didn't make the movie are pretty out there.
I mean, even some of the stuff that did is
Yeah.
Yeah.
One other example that I can think of is another author that I quite enjoy. T. Kingfisher is the pseudonym of Ursula Vernon, and I believe her reason is that Ursula Vernon, I believe that's her actual name, started writing books for young audiences or children's books, and then when she wanted to write adult books, did not want people to accidentally buy her adult fantasy books, or horror books as well. She's got some horror books that are quite good.
Branding,
and accidentally read them to their children. So she goes by T. Kingfisher, although I think there's some of those T. Kingfisher books that are also now listed as by Ursula Vernon, but I think that's her reason.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So, yeah, a couple of the reasons that you guys listed are what Stephen King says was his reasoning for Bachman. Specifically, not so much the tone. He does talk about how Bachman is a lot more troubled than because he treated Bachman as a whole persona. Like, they had a nickname for him. He has a whole story. He's married, or he's now deceased. He died when it was
R.I.P.
connected to him. Right, yeah.
All right, but it's a legend.
He has a whole He has a whole story though. I mean, he had a brain tumor and he got that removed, and he died very suddenly when it was connected to him. But yeah, a big reason for it was because his publisher was limiting the amount of releases, and he wanted to do more. But also because, like, I think Dan, you mentioned this. Like, he wanted to separate his work from his name. And it did until it was found out. I think it only lasted like 5 years or so before some guy who worked at a bookstore recognized something in the publishing and went into some archives or something and figured it out. It's kind of a dramatic story. But yeah, Thinner is a book that he did as Bachman also, which I have a tattoo of. And before it was
somebody
attributed
that
to
I
King,
know says that Thinner is the scariest book they've ever.
I might recommend it for the podcast.
I know it's some body
I also
horror.
don't recommend that movie. It's so bad. But I love the book. I have it. I have a reference to it tattooed on me. But that book, Thinner, sold 28,000 copies. When it was Bachman, and then 280,000 copies when Stephen King was attached to it.
I also wonder, Heidi, if there's, and you can tell me if he's said this or not, The Running Man seems very political, which we know that Stephen King is now with all the Twitter stuff that he's put his name to. But I wonder if that was something that he was trying to distance his own name from a little bit back in less contentious times.
It's possible, like maybe at the time, but having read a lot of King's work, he is not subtle. Like, he's just like, there's always a little comment, like in It. I've been rereading It recently, and I think Beverly is talking about one of their neighbors, and she says, "Oh, my mom doesn't like her. She's a Republican, and this isn't that." Like, he's not subtle about his political motivations or ideology. I guess he never has been. That might be part of it as to in the beginning, but I think quickly realizing that, like, he didn't get away with Bachman for very long. And I think as far as I know, he hasn't said anything about not wanting that out in the world. I mean, we'll read more King, and you'll see more examples of how blatant it is, because he doesn't hold back on Twitter, but he's never held back in his works, which is why I find it so interesting that people are surprised by what he has been. He basically trolls people on Twitter at this point.
I mean, to be fair, people were surprised that Homelander was not the hero of The Boys.
Right, yeah.
Take that as you will.
Yeah,
Heidi, let me ask you. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me ask you. I don't know. My book didn't have this forward you're talking about. Mine just jumped straight into minute 100 minus 100 and counting. Does he say anything? I've always wondered too with the pseudonym. I wonder how much ego comes into it too. Like, obviously, when did he start writing as Bachman? Was he already Stephen King? Like, the Stephen King we know now.
Definitely. Yeah.
So like, I wonder how much like of an artist challenges themselves. Like, okay, well, because I imagine when you hit a certain peak that level, like the self doubt probably never goes away. You're like, okay, are they reading this because they love it and it's good, or are they reading it because it's my name? And I wonder if using that pseudonym is kind of like a challenge for himself. Like, let me see how successful I can make this book when nobody knows that it's Stephen King attached to it.
I will say that I think you've also hit on another important pseudonym thing that we didn't talk about that's very related to Stephen King, his son.
Yeah,
because I think that's probably why he goes by Joe
too.
Hill, if I remember right, because he didn't want people only buying the books because he was Stephen King's son.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And yes, that's a huge part of it, because I'm going to read this little part. The numbers have gotten very big. That's part of it. I have times when I feel as if I've planted a modest packet of words and grew some kind of magic beanstalk or a runway garden of books. Or put it another way, sometimes I feel like Mickey Mouse and Fantasia. I knew enough to get the broom started, but once they start to march, things are never the same. And then he talks a little bit about how, like, he's like, I'm not bitching, but or I'm trying not to bitch. A little bit of bitching, like, about his own fame and success.
I'm so successful.
Right, yeah. He's like, they're very gentle bitches. The direct quote from here, yeah.
But I could see that as an artist getting tough, right? You want people to appreciate, like, Dan, you're an artist, you want people to appreciate your work, right? I could imagine once somebody hitting that level of success where, like, like Heidi, like, if Stephen King drops a book tomorrow, you're reading it no matter what, because it's Stephen King,
no
right?
doubt. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
They could tell you it's the worst book he's ever made, and it's a hot, steaming pile of garbage, but you're still going to buy it and read it for yourself. And, I could see that being a fun challenge as an author when you make it to that level. Just like, okay, let's prove my own, because his only hater at that point is probably himself. Let's prove myself wrong here, the number one hater.
Yeah.
It's fun. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, mission successful for a time, but R.I.P. Richard Bachman.
Until he died. Until Richard Bachman died.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I always wondered too, like, when you guys were saying, like, he created this whole, like, I feel like that's such towing a line. He could find himself, like, dangerously getting close to getting lost in this, like, fake person. Like, almost like,
I mean, that's
sounded like a horror movie.
Go through that.
It sounded like a horror movie plot.
That, like, lose their sense of self because they've been acting a character.
That's crazy. It sounded like what you were describing. It sounded like he was headed down that path.
Yeah, he talks about it a little bit too, because after the death of Richard Bachman, he does write another book. He writes another book as Bachman.
From the grave?
A posthumous Richard Bachman novel.
It's Desperation and The Regulators. So Desperation is Stephen King. The Regulators is Bachman. And they're interconnected in a lot of ways. Two really good books also. And the way he talks about it is like Bachman, well, now Bachman's dead, but there's like his work is like in a basement somewhere that he can go down, and at the top of the pile is, which one is it? Regulators. So it seems like, at least now, it's like a separate, it's like compartmentalization. Like Bachman is over there. It's a different portion of the brain.
Yeah,
but I'm sure it took some mental strength to get to that point for Bachman. So yeah, R.I.P. Richard Bachman.
That'd be a good tattoo, a small one. Rip Richard Bachman.
Yeah, I'll consider
your
that
seventh
for my next
King
one.
tattoo.
Yeah. So The Running Man. First, I didn't put this in my discussion prompts, but we've been doing it every time. So gut reactions, first thoughts. How do you feel? How do you feel when you finished it? How do you feel now?
So I mean, I think it's remarkable, and I've known about this novel before I read it. Like, I don't think you can go too far in academia without knowing this novel. It's prescient how this is before Survivor, before any of the reality TV shows of the time, and while an extreme example of them, nailed, what was going to happen as far as TV viewership and what people will consume. So shout out to the fact that it's 2025 and we're reading it in 2025. Also, that's why the movie's coming
Yeah.
out, I would imagine, in 2025. But when I first heard that number, I'm like, oh, okay, Steven.
Yeah, he nailed some things.
Yeah, no, it's I will say I think I struggled at times with the book. I didn't love it. I thought it was I think it's probably fair to say that it is an important work, but I think it's dated in some ways. It was written what, nearly 40 years ago?
Yeah, 85, I think, 85.
Yeah, and it shows its age. But that being said, yeah, there's some really interesting things to break down. It was a lot less actiony than I thought it was going to be. I will say that. I
Thanks,
went into
Arnold.
it's fully expecting, because of the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, just the concept of Arnold Schwarzenegger being in the movie, and not that I've seen it to be an action-packed, nonstop, like. But then it just breaks down in the middle and talks about the air pollution and everything when he's with Bradley, and that takes up a good chunk of the book. Yeah, I think that's what I'll say for my first impression.
Yeah, my gut reaction to it's pretty similar. I found it a tough read. I did like it. I'm glad I read it. I did think it was a tough read, though. I mean, I think with the subject matter and with the commentary he's trying to go for, it's never going to be an easy read. But, I mean, there are some really tough scenes to get through. Lots of tough language to get through, too, weirdly, I found.
Yeah, I will always react to the R word being said, specifically the one that ends in ARD. In the autism community, especially, that's not a cool word. And that was not the only word in this book, but that was one that struck.
Yeah, that like the anti-Semitic language too. Like I think I get the point that's trying to be made, right? That everybody's just a product of this crazy media ran and horribly just crazy fascist, total far extreme capitalist society that kind of breeds these monsters. It's still tough to get through, which I think, probably by design a little bit on that is tough to get through. Lots of the stereotypes, pretty tough to get through. But I did think it was on the edge of my seat. I found it I agree with you. I did think there was going to be a lot more action. It was certainly thrilling for me, at least, too, though. Like, even the structure of the book with the 100 countdown and the very fast-paced chapters, short sentences, your anxiety levels get up there, and the book wastes no time. I mean, it feels like second page he's headed to the studio to go sign up. And I found it really, it's an interesting one to talk about, I'll say that. But overall, I would say I liked it.
Yeah, it's hard to say you like a book like this because it's so it's the subject matter is tough, but I think especially now it's 2025 now. It's 2025 in the book, and there's so many things that we are seeing now that really reflect he got a lot of things kind of right in
we've got a reality
really
show president
bad
now,
way.
so
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that before. Yeah.
We'll talk about what he got at the end, right? Oh my God, talk about being ahead of. We'll talk about that at the end. But
jeez, yeah.
I went down a Reddit post of all the things he got right, and it's pretty shocking. Like, from vaccines to a certain American tragedy that we'll talk about. Like, it's pretty crazy what he somehow got accurate.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough. The biggest theme for me that really sticks out is the media and propaganda and how it is like so aggressively used by the government to control the population and to to control the population in such a way that everybody hates each other. They hate their communities rather than turning the lens on the TV, I suppose, in this very specific example. So yeah, that's
they're being
the
told
brunt
what to
of what I
think,
wanted to talk
which
about. Yeah. I mean, there
is again prescient to today,
right, and like the manipulation of, just of Ben Richards himself when he gets on the show. Is Ben Richards a good guy? No. Actually, let's talk about that first before we really get into the media part of it. Because it's really important to understand that he is he's not a good person.
Yeah, he sucks.
He has horrible thoughts. He's
Yeah,
mean to his wife.
I think that's one of the reasons why, for me, it was a little bit of a tough read, is because you're in the POV of somebody who, personally, I found pretty despicable.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I can understand why what shaped him into the person that he was, but I mean, he's with a woman in a car, and he's like, and for a moment, I thought about, essaying her, and like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
It's hard to read.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah. And I think for me, Ben Richards is just like we get his point of view, and he is the example of how the society has, like you said, he's a degenerate, and kind of everybody is. Like, there's none
100%.
of the characters are good. Like,
No. I didn't like
you don't
anybody in
meet
this
a
book,
single
really.
none
Bradley
of them.
might have been like the closest guy for me to like be like, okay, kind of like you, but
Yeah, I mean, he's just the woke one who opens Ben's eyes a little bit to the reality of,
Of the
who he's
situation.
supposed to, who he's supposed to really be fighting against. But yeah, but interestingly enough, I still root for him because
100%, because he's better than the fascist in charge, right? He's better than the media. Oh my gosh.
yeah,
I mean, he is who he is because of the fascists and the media
Exactly.
and all that.
And it's like,
I mean, they're literally poisoning his daughter and
I think, like,
his entire cast, essentially.
I think, Dan, you might, I don't know if you've read these, but I've never wanted a villain to get, and I say villain, I mean the main talk show guy that, the host. I've never wanted somebody to get what they deserve so much, like, other than like maybe like the Jackal in Red Rising, where I just want him to just finally get what he deserves. And my gosh, and it's just the way, like, everything he does, he's so slimy, even up until we'll talk about it at the end, I'm sure, like the deal he offers him, and it's like, bro, fuck you. You're so like the way, like, you've just put this guy through all this, the whole society out, all this, and you're like, oh, I just made a great tool, and I'm going to use this tool to do even more and get even more ratings and do even more things. And I wanted him gone so bad. I wanted
more so
him to
than
explode.
Sadius in Way of Kings.
You
Because
know,
Sadius is one of those guys who I was rooting for to get his for a long time.
Call me delusional. I wanted him to turn it around. It was
you wanted a Sadius redemption arc.
What is Sadius redemption arc? What? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name of the guy who actually sends Khaled into servitude, to the fake honorable one. God, what is his name?
Too.
You know who I'm talking about. He's the one I could not wait until he got his due. He was the one. Sadius, I was like, is he really? Maybe he just has a different idea for the Alethi. Like, let's hear him out. And I liked that his wife was hella girl boss. It was sick. Just not a storm.
Amaran.
Oh yes. Oh my God, Amaran. Lord Amaran's arm. Yeah, fuck that guy. Oh my God, I could not wait for him to get his due. Sadius, I wanted the redemption arc.
That's
probably a hot take there.
I feel like it is, yeah. Yeah. I mean, wasn't it Killian, I think?
Killian, yeah.
Is pure evil. Yeah, he's pure evil.
Yeah. And he's so modern evil too. Like
he's got kill in his name. What do you expect?
Literally. He is like the Murdochs, he is like the Koch family. Like, he is true modern evil that will put all these, like, he wrote that fantastic. That is one of the best written villains I think I have seen, just because it's so accurate.
Very much so. He is like the leader of this or something. He has bosses. It's kind of vague.
It's very
but
weird.
I don't think it matters that much because he's like the face of it. Yeah. Yeah, and he is pure evil. And the thing too is that is so like, it's so relevant to now, is that he tells Ben everything. Like, he lies to him at certain points, but he also says stuff like when he's first explaining the rules of the Running Man in the beginning, he tells him like, you get $100 per hour, and also $100 every time you dispatch someone from like the police or authority or whatever. And he tells him, he straight up says, you get $100 per police officer basically that you kill. Try not to get any innocents. So like he's just saying it like straight up. Like, this is evil. Try not to kill innocent people, your community, who he tells him to like stick by. But then, you know, on screen, he villainizes Ben Richards, who, again, not a good person, but is also not like a criminal.
He's a product of his environment.
Yeah, he is.
Right, exactly. That specifically, when he said that, I wrote it down right away on the reread, and I was like, this is crazy, because we see that now too, like, you know, in the political sphere. They'll just say these things, and then I don't want to get too deep into the weeds on it, but the quiet part out loud is kind of the point I'm trying to make with that scene specifically.
Wait, do you know who's playing him? I just looked this up. Do you know who's playing him in the 2025 cast?
No, who?
Thanos.
Oh
Josh Brolin?
It's Josh Brolin.
That's pretty good.
Like a pretty good choice, but like he's Thanos.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
Maybe this movie will be good. Because the 1997 one is not. It's not even the same story. It's not the same story
Lee
at all.
Pace is in it. Daniel Ezra, Amelia Jones. Like, there's some good names in it. William H. Macy.
Isn't
Visually,
Michael Cera
from the
in it, too?
trailers, it looks sick too. It looks
Coleman
pretty sick.
Domingo.
Yeah.
I'll watch it.
Michael Cera, who we didn't even.
Yeah. So that's
Imagine
random.
Michael Cera's
Cera's playing
Richards.
Bradley, which I can bet you will be Michael Cera, because that's the one
Yeah.
person he knows how to play.
Right. Yeah. That's who he plays. So also with Ben Richards, one critique that I have, there are, you know, like we talked about earlier, there are many issues with the book as far as, you know, the time period and all that kind of thing. But something that I kind of didn't love, and I think it's just because of how fast paced the book is.
Super fast.
When Ben sort of has his not come to Jesus moment, but when Bradley tells him like, this is the reality of the situation, like what you're seeing is not true. It's kind of just like a very exposition-y. I would have liked to see, I mean, obviously we're getting it from Ben's perspective, but I would have liked it to be a little bit more of his journey of figuring stuff out, rather than just like him meeting this person and then that person telling him, hey, what you see is not actually what is happening in the world, and let me tell you, and then let me show you these library books. But I think that also says something about the world that Ben lives into. I just didn't love it myself. Was it something that you guys were expecting going in reading this? I don't know what your expectations were as far as like the themes and the like overarching, because they talk about, you know, the nose screens and the pollution, which is ultimately like what sort of kickstarts Ben into being more anti-establishment than anti the world. So yeah, I was wondering what you guys kind of thought about that. And how it was presented.
Yeah, going in, I don't know if I saw. I mean, I think based off the premise of the book, you can kind of see they're going to go in with not heavy-handed, but they're going to go in with the main theme's going to be probably some sort of media control and some dystopian, some world with that. I mean, this came before most of them, but that's a favorite with a lot of dystopian novels now, is the way to use the media to kind of control. With the pollution aspect, I did not see the actual, like, I don't know, kind of like an environmental argument almost being made with here too, like not almost, but definitely being made with how the government maybe has a say where maybe some toxins and some pollutions go versus where it might not go, which we know we have seen in Warren County a couple decades back, where all our toxins got dumped, and the population of that was a predominantly black county, so it wasn't coincidental that they dumped
Michigan too.
Right, more recently Flint. So again, like these are stuff that was happening during when this book was written. You know, this was something that was happening during the Reagan administration a lot. Still is happening, unfortunately.
And I like rolled back so many regulations on.
Literally, yeah.
Pollution.
I mean, it's gonna be it's gonna get worse. But With two, it kind of serves as an interesting little double entendre there too, right? With the with literally being polluted and how they are polluting your mind to hate your neighbor, to not team together, because they all know what is the worst thing against a corrupt government is a unified people. Just ask the good Americans in 1776, right? It took everybody coming together, and
Hint, hint.
it's a right. And I think it's interesting on that how he's kind of like showing, yes, you're actually being polluted, but your mind's also being polluted, which is probably, which allows them to continue the actual pollution and all these other dangerous things because they know you can't stand up to them if you all are sucked on the freebie and hate each other and hate your society and are complacent and feel stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know you kind of asked me to talk a little bit about this, Heidi, but I was not expecting disability to be as much of a theme as it is in the book. Which honestly, it makes sense, especially with what you just said, Colin, about having other people in the society, because this was written in the 80s and the American Disability Act only was signed in 1990. The disability
Relatively
cause
new.
was really kind of kicking into gear in the 1980s. And we open up on this game show, I believe it's called Treadmill Debucks or something like that.
Yeah.
And they're having people with heart or respiratory conditions like run on treadmills and answer trivia questions, and if they get it wrong, just crank it up until they inevitably have either a heart attack or like an asthmatic attack and just die off. It's eugenics, which has been a thing in disability, and one of the big things in the Disability Act was, before 1990 and even before 1980s, but it was still a thing of if you had somebody who was disabled, you wanted them out of the public eye because they were not what we wanted in the society. We were going through our own eugenics in America, and not just America, but we live here, so let's analyze it. So it also reminds me, and this was a big thing in the 80s too. There was Jerry's Kids. Disabled children especially were basically paraded on like television to please donate to this charity, and then they were basically told to perform because this is going to be what's good for you, and a lot of them ended up resenting it. And you see that here where these people are being forced to perform for the able-bodied spectators, and you are having the government really, especially with the poor, disable them by the pollution that has, they make a note of saying that I think Tokyo had the nose filters by like by 2012, something like that.
Yeah.
And in America, only the rich could get the nose filters, not the poor, because we don't care about the poor. We don't care about disabled people. You have a poor girl, Bradley's sister, I believe, with lung cancer caused by the air pollution. There's a distinct lack of care, of seeing these people as human, both the poor and the disabled. I mean, it's very intersectional in this world. And I mean, it's essentially medical apartheid, where the top rich people, they have medical care, but the lower class does not. Yeah, that was certainly not what I was expecting going in. Knowing Stephen King's politics, it doesn't surprise me that's in there, but it was not what I was expecting going in.
Yeah, and it's like it's one of those things that I think a lot of dystopian series don't do well. I think, in my experience, Hunger Games aside, because there is representation in the books, they completely cut it out of the movies, but we're not talking about the Hunger Games. I've read a decent amount of dystopian series and novels, and I think it's something that is pretty well ignored, is the disabled community in these situations, and maybe that's due to the fact that the authors, they don't have the, experience or the knowledge to write about those things. That makes total sense. But I think also something that stood out to me specifically was because of the pollution, like you said, it's like it's causing mass disabling of of the population. They talk about like multiple people dying of like emphysema and all these kind of issues.
I think testicular
Again,
cancer is a big one.
yeah,
that they
yeah,
mentioned.
lung cancer in children. They're talking about how that's like so unusual. It also it plays into the media controlling things because it's the distraction aspect, right? Like if you're watching these shows, you're not paying attention to what's going on around you, which I mean Ben is a prime example of. Like he had no idea the truth of the situation. There are some things that you can't hide, which he saw. He knows about the pollution, he knows about the nose filters, but the extent of it, he truly has no idea until he's shown proof of it. I just thought that was really interesting, and also a little bit true to life. What with COVID, a mass disabling virus, and it was largely talked about for a long time, but the effects of it, I think, are being ignored as of right now. I mean, there's a lot going on in the world to be paying attention to, but
you don't hear as much about long COVID or any of that anymore, and that's still
right.
a problem. Sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, even Ben Richards becomes what we kind of call a supercrip in the media narrative, where in the okay, so the idea of a supercrip is that a disabled person only has value if they do something that is seen as difficult to do or inspiring to others, and he doesn't matter in the show until he gets shot up and his intestines are coming out and all of this kind of stuff, and then after he's shot multiple policemen and stuff like that, as he's been disabled, does he have people coming up to him on the airplane saying, we were all rooting for you? Before that, he's not a human being worthy of life, but only because he shows he plays the part of a supercrip at one point does he have merit and value.
That is interesting. I had not heard supercrip before.
Yeah, I had not heard that term either.
Yeah. I want to talk about the ending now because I also have a segment that I've been talking about how does 9/11 appear in this book?
We're up to 2.
Technically not, because this was written before 9/11.
Right, this was written before 9/11, comma, a little bit, it does.
I'll count
which is crazy.
One of the most abrupt endings I think I've ever read.
Yeah.
It was like he finds out the truth. He gets the deal, finds out his wife and kid, who the whole reason he's even considering doing this in the first place, is dead. He goes and takes a nap. He has a dream. Takes control of the plane. Crashes into the building. Book is over.
But it's not just the logical length. I mean, I don't know how it was reading it. I was listening to the end of the book on audiobook, and there's the sentences, the debris is raining down, and then it's like, this book was read by all. I'm like, wait, what? And I had to rewind it.
Hopes you enjoyed this program.
Because I'm like, did that
this
just
has
end?
been an Audible, whatever. Yeah.
But it was even the prose, and I think it's to show, that, because let's face it, it is a sudden ending, but the prose itself mirrored what the experience would have been of just a sudden, abrupt stop.
Which is what it would be, right? And
yeah,
I love that Jesus was all Killian had time to get out. And the fact that he's like flipping him off, I just picture just the whole way in.
What, double
just
flipping him off.
Double, just
fully guts hanging out, like wild.
Double bird up.
Bird, guts on the ground.
Heidi, you had an interesting point in your pre-show notes. If we found this hopeful, and I want to say I did not find this hopeful. I did not. I think that's an interesting thing. No, it's a really good conversation point, because I think this is a lot of things, and I think I feel like it's done intentionally. It's a big thing. I've been thinking a lot about Red Rising lately, so I'm going to come up to that again. There's a quote there's a main theme that comes up in the original trilogy throughout that one of this idea of okay, being a martyr is easy. You got to be something more, right? Living is harder. Inspiring change and leading the rebellion is harder than just dying and being the figurehead. And I think when you're in a society like this, like it was badass, don't get me wrong. They're going to rebuild the building. The show's going to come back. The Freevies still going to be pumping programs.
There'll be a new Killian.
There's going to be a new Killian. His replacement's probably already groomed for it, right? The way he was willing to groom the top mercenary that quick, right? I guarantee you his replacement's ready. You need people like Ben Richards who have this now advanced knowledge and are willing to kind of be defiant. You need people like those to be alive in order for there to be change. But now they're going to show the most successful running man candidate ever we saw throughout that they were controlling what he was saying and his messages that would get out it starts in the beginning when they doctor the picture of his wife. And they're going to edit it out to where it's like, it wasn't an act of rebellion. It was a mishap, all that. It's going to get controlled. Exactly. We warned you, we got to get people like this out of society.
For example, look what they're doing with some of the, the current regime is doing with some of the potential political enemies that they're having. They just charged a few either, actual politicians or congressional candidates. I'm thinking of like Kat Abu Ghazala, I think her name is, with, obstruction because she was out protesting and was in front of a car. But they're now portraying her as like a violent criminal, and she's protesting. It's a First Amendment thing. Again, just something that he's. I'm sure, look, Ronald Reagan in the 80s, despite what some people want you to believe, you had the AIDS epidemic that was being blamed on homosexuals and gay people.
He's the originator of all the stuff we're going through.
Oh, yeah. Him and Gingrich.
He's the architect. He's the blueprint.
I'm sure some of this was present then, but like, look, it's 2025 and look at it now. It's 2025 in the book. King sure had an eye.
Yeah. And it's like, and that's the big thing too, why you need a Daryl of Tribe Lycos to be alive, why you need a Ben Richards to be alive, so you can be the one who says your story, who can push back on the doctoring stuff, who has that knowledge, and now you can't. Now nobody's going to know. Just back to normal, have a couple time to repair, and it's back to normal, and worse than we were now, because now they're going to be guarded against that stuff,
Or they'll turn it into a martyrdom kind of thing, like we're seeing with a certain thing today.
Yeah. I also wrote, is this a horror novel? Which it's so true to life. Currently, it was written in the 80s. It's a little horrifying and scary. I don't think that was the intention at the time, but I
would say that I think the book is scary, but scary does not always equal horror to me, I suppose.
Yeah.
I guess I would struggle to fully define that without more thought on the matter, what the distinction is. Certainly, I think I've talked about the Kristaven theory of abjection, Julia Kristaven's theory. It was certainly abjection, an experience of abjection in this book. But would I classify it as horror? Probably not, despite there being definitely some eerie and scary bits in it.
Yeah, me neither. It's a thriller to me.
Yeah, for sure. I mostly wrote that in jest, but also because it's scary because it's coming true. Circling back to the pseudonym thing, Stephen King is often typecast as if you go to the horror section, it's all the Stephen King books. It doesn't matter if they're horror or not, they're there. Like Fairy Tale is one it's fantasy. Eye of the Dragon, those are fantasy novels that he wrote, but they're over there because he's Stephen King. But that is not a reason why he has specifically said that he doesn't give a shit what people call him, as long as he can go to sleep at night, as far as genre and typecasting.
I would hate to know what kind of dreams Stephen King has, though, because the things he comes up with, he must have some pretty fucked up dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
And he writes them all down.
Anything else for us, Heidi?
I think we touched on pretty much everything I wanted to with this book. We will be reading more Stephen King. My favorite book and favorite movie are The Green Mile by Stephen King, which is on my list probably sooner rather than later. I'm going to recommend a couple other books before I throw another Stephen King out there. But
R.I.P. Michael Clark Duncan.
yeah, geez, that was one of those celebrity deaths that really got to me.
Yeah, I always liked him.
Fantastic movie, gut-wrenching movie. The book I'll say it's a good adaptation. It's one of the good adaptations. So that one will be coming up. But anyway, I'll step off my Stephen King soapbox now.
Okay, so before we go into next week, let's go to if you want to give a rating for the book or a tier ranking, however you want to do it. And if you have any books that, if you enjoyed this, go check this one out.
For a rating, I like this book. I wouldn't say I quite loved it, but I did like it, and I'm glad I read it. If I had to establish some sort of rating on it, I think it kind of falls in that 7.75 range. It's a good book, and I'm happy I read it. A recommendation that I would give, speaking of media controlling you by making you watch some pretty messed up stuff involving lots of violence, I'm going to recommend Kushin Takami's Battle Royale. 42 Japanese kids forced to middle school kids. Government experiment, military experiment, they try to write it off as, but you later learn that it is a way to squash any future rebellions and control all sorts of potential people who want to consider rebelling against their government. And I think it fits nicely with this kind of theme. Also very brutal, tough read, set in a ultra-capitalist Japan as well, kind of how this is a ultra-capitalist America, which is pretty much just America now. And it's a good book. It's a tough read. Barnes & Noble has a beautiful cover that I wish I had mine in reaching distance for you to go see. But they have a beautiful cover you can go buy. I recommend.
I'm going to get back on my Stephen King soapbox actually for 1 second because I'm going to recommend another Bachman book, which is The Long Walk. The movie came out recently. I really loved it. The book is a lot. If you watch the movie, it's a brutal movie on purpose. Stephen King actually had a hand in the casting and in like how things were depicted, and you can tell the book is worse. So I wouldn't recommend it to just anybody. But if you read The Running Man and, enjoyed it, read the book. It's worth the read. It's different than the movie in a lot of really interesting ways. They might be in the same universe. They actually probably are. They are in the same universe. They're now that I am actually putting thought to it, in that, Stephen King verse or whatever the fandom calls it. There's not an official name.
Every book that Stephen King writes theoretically is in the same universe, right?
Yeah, almost.
I guess we'll find out in the Dark Tower when we eventually tackle that. Did either of you want to give it a star rating or a tier ranking or any of that?
I think I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads. It's probably, like what Colin said, like a 7 out of 10. It's so brutal that it is a tough read. So for me, that doesn't necessarily knock it down, but I think for other people it might. It's obviously on my bookshelf. It's going to stay there forever. I don't have a tattoo of it, so that's
not tattooable. That's your ranking.
Yeah, I don't think I would get a tattoo inspired by this book. That's going to go into my ranking now.
I think I'd probably recommend, and I don't know if either of you have read this one, is one of the seminal dystopia novels, Brave New World by Aldous Huxley.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like The Running Man. It kind of hits all of the dystopia hallmarks, class warfare, the government controlling you, in this case with drugs for Brave New World. But if you like dystopia, that's like the progenitor, or at least one of them. And I think it still holds up today. It's one of the ones where, again, you can look at it today and be like, wow, Huxley got a lot right in 1932. As for my tier ranking, I think I put it on my bookshelf. It's definitely not, in my mind, like a place of honor on the bookshelf, but it's one of those that I think is an important read, and I'm glad that I read it, and I would certainly, put it in that tier of just on the bookshelf. Don't know if I ever want to read it again, but I'm glad that I did.
Very real.
And then, Colin, why don't you take away what we're going to be reading for next week?
Okay, so next week we have a fun one, a much more fun than what we talked about today, using that word loosely, because, well, I guess there's a lot of not fun stuff to talk about with some themes. But that will be A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik, the first in the Scholomance trilogy.
Can I also just say, look at this cover. It's so pretty.
It's gorgeous cover. I have that same one. I'm not going to give too much away because I think, like at least my experience reading it, though, you learn more and more every single chapter, and it makes it more fun that way. So, but basically all you need to know is young wizards go to very scary school, and they have to survive to graduate. And it's unlike any school. It's not Hogwarts. It's unlike any school you've ever read.
I think it's better than Hogwarts. Hot take, maybe.
I think so, too.
I actually don't think that's an argument, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a sick magical school. It's better than the one from Catabasis. It's better than the one from Harry Potter, Hogwarts. But it's got lots of great magic in it.
That being said, I'd want to live in Hogwarts more than I want to live in the Scholomance.
That is for sure.
That's fair. That's fair.
That is for sure. But it'll be a fun read. It's one that I recommend going in as blind as possible and learn every single chapter, because every single chapter you learn a little bit more about the world. And it's a point, even at the end of book one, you don't know you know enough, but you don't know everything. And there's some cliffhangers for you. So it's gonna be a fun discussion, and one that I foresee us continuing the full trilogy.
All right. So signing off for this week, I'm Daniel.
I'm Heidi.
And I'm Colin.
And this has been Words, Words, Words. Keep reading. Hey, everyone. Before we go, we'd love to hear from you. You can reach us at contact@wordswordspod.com. Don't worry, I'll put it in the text of the show. Or you can find us on Instagram at wordswordspod. Whether you have book recommendations, thoughts on today's discussion, or just want to say hi, we are always excited to connect with fellow readers.
And speaking of community, if you're looking for more conversation between episodes, we've got a Discord server where we talk books, share recommendations, and just generally geek out about all things speculative fiction. The link is in the show notes, and we'd love to see you there.
And if you enjoyed today's episode, please consider liking, subscribing, and following us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast needs served. It really helps us reach more readers and keep those conversations going. Thanks so much for listening or watching, and we'll see you next time on Words, Words, Words.